Well, welcome to Reboot Civilization. My name is CJ Morgan, and today we have a guest, Chad Alexander. Hello, Chad.
Hello, CJ. Thanks for having me on.
Well, today we have a very exciting topic. We're talking about the future of food and hydroponics. Do you know much about that subject?
I do, in terms of like today's technology, not necessarily future technology. I I come from an area where there's a lot of hydroponic farming. There's probably like, I don't know how many thousand acres of hydroponic greenhouses for mass food production of mostly vegetables that get distributed around North America. So it's a multi-billion-dollar economy in my home region. I've explored a lot of the greenhouses. Um, I've seen everything from how they control, like total environmental controls of the climate, to inject CO2 into the plants, mineral drip of water in each plant. Even some greenhouses now are experimenting with different color grow lights at night, like the violet part of the spectrum. Apparently that helps the plants absorb nutrients better.
I thought red makes it grow faster. It's red.
Okay.
Yeah, because red is the fastest wavelength. So you're saying violet actually, UV light, it helps the plant absorb the nutrients, is it?
I'm not an expert. I'm just an outsider, and that's what I observed the last time I was in that region. Was I asked, what's with the violet colored greenhouses at night? And they said that they're trying different colors of the spectrum to see which ones lead to better nutrient absorption.
That's amazing.
So I don't know what the different colors do to photosynthesis. I'm not a botanist or anything like that. Just an outside observer.
Very good. Well, the paradigm shift.
And lastly, I was involved in a project probably 10 years ago with a friend of mine who was in physics, and he also was involved in genetics. And we did an experiment where we created certain frequencies of sound waves and played them to tomato seedlings. And he did an experiment over the course of a couple months to see which frequencies, like which low frequency ranges resulted in improved growth for the plants.
Wow.
So that's, yeah, it didn't turn out the way that we'd expected. Because the environment that he used I don't think it was controlled enough. It was in the basement. It wasn't like in a greenhouse. So that's pretty much the extent of what I know about hydroponics.
Do you think the future is made of hydroponics?
Yeah, I think that we're still in the early stages of hydroponics. A lot of the vegetables that are produced at this point, I find that well, not just me, but a lot of people find that they don't have the same kind of flavor. And again, this is early stage, so the strains of the plants that they're growing now, I'm sure that they're chosen and engineered to thrive in greenhouses and to be aesthetically pleasing. So maybe 20 years down the road, they'll actually be able to create a hydroponically grown tomato that tastes just as good as the ones that are grown with heirloom seeds in grandpa's garden.
But the ideology behind hydroponics is we're moving away from soil-based growth for food production. So in the ground, there's lots of parasites and bacteria. And as we ingest the food, because they're not thoroughly like microscopically clean, we're ingesting those parasites and they're affecting our aging process. So the idea is by moving the food over to hydroponics in the future, like in the year 2100, will be less infected by parasites and bacteria, and our life extension will actually increase. That's the ideology.
Right, but I think the main reason for hydroponics on a practical level is just having to feed so many people. It was part of the Green Revolution.
Yeah.
It was like, if we can do this, then we can yield more produce and we can feed more people. So it was all about quantity, not necessarily quality. And I don't think it was done for hygienic reasons, like you're saying, against parasites.
In the future, it will be seen as primitive to eat food directly from the ground.
Okay.
That's
maybe.
Ideology.
But also, it's just being able to totally, it's the scientific method applied. It's like, what if we can control every single variable?
Yeah, you can create any sort of mutations you want because it's grown in house.
Hmm.
But what
You
do
don't have you
what
don't have nature. You don't have the fractal environment of nature to contend with.
but like would you see the logic in the ideology that by swapping over to hydroponics from growing in the ground that it would extend our lives, the human race?
Um, I have controversial views on this because most people think that the secret to longevity is in eliminating things. So eliminating pathogens, eliminating bacteria, eliminating parasites, eliminating fats, eliminating sugars, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas I come from the angle that why not? It's just like with inoculations, give yourself a little bit of the disease so that your body adapts the antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the future, I think we're going to have a split. We're going to have people who don't go down the path of totally sterile environments, and they have to live in sterile environments. They're going to insist on greenhouse grown, totally controlled environment, environmentally controlled fruits and vegetables, and maybe even protein items. Like they could be growing meat in
Oh
those
yeah,
same
lab grown
environments, right?
meat.
Yeah, they could be. It's like in Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner, the protein farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So they could be protein farmers, not just fruit and vegetable farmers. And then the other strain of people will be the ones who have exposed themselves to all of these, toxins and pathogens and bacteria, and are able and have the antibodies to deal with them. Like when I was a kid, I think probably half of the population of children were breastfed, and the other half were given formula.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones who were breastfed didn't incur as much sickness through life
See,
as the ones.
there's an actual reason to why we might
What's that?
there's a reason to why the human race might swap over to hydroponics is because we're running out of antibiotics. We're on the last line of defenses with our current antibiotics, and we've no antibiotics left. So we have to eliminate parasites and bacteria. So as a cultural shift or cultural movement, we'll be moving away from infecting ourselves with these bacteria and parasites because we don't have the medicines anymore to treat it, and also the body isn't treating it naturally. So
Yeah.
it might be like the paradigm shift might happen because there mightn't be we might be on the last legs. Like the human race life extension might be getting lower and lower and lower, while Reboot Civilization is trying to get that number up as far as we can, up to like 125, 150 by changing our environment.
Yeah, and I think the debate between us is I'm pro pathogens, and you're saying that we should be quarantining ourselves because the environment has.
It's sterile. It's a sterile environment.
Right.
See, we'll be seen as the era that played in the muck, and that will be seen as a primitive notion, primitive concept that we didn't realize we were actually lowering our life expectancy by playing in the dirt. Whereas, like at the moment, there's people out there saying, "Play in the dirt. It's good for you. Makes you live long and makes you healthy." Whereas in the future, they'll look back and say that was barbaric, that was primitive, that was lack of awareness and lack of intelligence. So hydroponics truly is the future, and I think the sooner that we incorporate hydroponics into modern day society, in the first world nations at least, we're going to see big changes in the life expectancy.
Okay, so here's what I think about that. Things like, I believe you have to supplement. There's not enough nutrients left in food. Like I said, I grew up around farmed food, and there are no minerals left in the soil, and there's definitely no minerals in the growth medium that they use in greenhouse. There's none. They have to add it into the water. They'll add some magnesium, some potassium, some nitrogen, and that's what you get. And those minerals that they add are not.
But that will become a more sophisticated process as time goes on, because we'll actually be able to have like an app on our technological medium, whether it's iPhone now or a holographic interface in the future, and it will be doing live readings of your nutrients, and then as your vegetables are growing, you'll have your custom nutrient releasing into the food, and then you'll be picking up that nutrients and eating it. So, or you'll be supplemented through tablets. So, like medicine and the administration of nutrients will be very sophisticated in the future with
Yeah, and I
technology.
think, and that's what I'm saying. The delivery mechanisms for the nutrients, because everyone's going to have to supplement. You're going to realize that sooner or later. This baloney about food as medicine, I think people in this generation are going to realize that that's a dead end.
And I
And
think organics is going to be seen as a dead end as well.
because they grow things in pig,
Organic, you know,
they
it's
grow
it's going to
they
be
grow
food
organics is
hydroponic.
forced. Yeah, they're forced to grow things in pig manure,
Yeah,
and that's E.
full of
coli.
bacteria.
Yeah, full of bacteria. So enough people are going to get sick in this generation who are experimenting with this whole food as medicine business.
Mhm.
And then what's going to happen is you're going to have these clean food producers. Yes, it'll definitely boost the hydroponic industry. But I think eventually, like, there's no need to eat nutrients in the shape of vegetables. There's no actual practical reason, like, to
Yeah,
eat it in the shape of a cucumber or the shape of a tomato or a banana. But it's nostalgia for the old versions of ourselves where we ate bananas and we ate, piece of steak off a cow and, these things that were shaped like food, those old archetypes of food. There's no practical purpose. So what's going to happen is the creation of foods in the greenhouse is purely for nostalgia. It's like, okay, I'm going to eat this tomato as a delivery mechanism so I can get these minerals instead of just using a protein, like a powder
yeah.
supplement, a dietary shake.
So you think food is a pill in the future?
Um, that's what I'm saying, is that people don't want food to be a pill, so they're going to put it into like fortified greenhouse grown vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
So your tomato won't just be a tomato. It'll be a tomato with the same thing that you would put into your smoothie, like the powders,
Yeah.
like the vegan and the whey powder, that kind of stuff. It'll be put into fortified into the food because people like the activity of eating. It's a pastime, like eating food. And I don't think they'll ever just say, like, well, not in the near future. They're not going to just pop pills
Mm-hmm.
because they'll miss out on like sitting down and like cutting a tomato with a knife and chewing on it.
I think it would take like 2, 3, 400 years before food would be eliminated.
Yeah, and it will, but like you said, it's going to take a few centuries. It's going to have to be like, it'll slowly disappear, but I mean slowly. And in the meantime, like, that's what the greenhouse vegetables are, is a nostalgic archetype of what food used to be. And then the only thing missing is now they have to put real minerals and micro and macronutrients into them,
Yeah,
because
like
right now
mining the
it's
earth.
very primitive.
Like they'll be mining the soil. Like a farmer will mine his soil for nutrients to be
They
sent
don't
out.
have soil. They don't have soil. What do you mean?
Like as in like the new farming will be mining their own land to get nutrients out of the ground.
Oh, okay.
Like farming is going to change. Like the production of food is going to change.
So
Like
really what they're going to be, we go from farming back to hunting and gathering, and that is gathering of nutrients.
mhm. I think it's interesting because we have so many apps out there now, like MyFitness and all this kind of thing, and it's food counting. And then you have like there's like a breakaway kind of movement going now where everyone's getting their blood tests done and their hair analysis done and all this kind of thing. But in the future, there'll be such sophisticated mechanisms and ways of measuring nutrients in your body that it'll be a notification on your app telling you, oh, you're low in vitamin C. Go take 200 milligrams of vitamin C, So
Yeah.
I think like there's the gap for just from the Reboot Civilization, the gap that needs to be filled in there is measurements, being able to measure the nutrients in the body and being able to notify the person of what nutrients to take. And then we have the delivery mechanism, whether it's a pill form, whether you sniff it as mist, because everyone knows that the olfactory, which is the brain, and smelling, when you smell medicine, it goes into your blood faster than taking a tablet.
Okay.
So in the future, food might be flavored smells. you know, where you smell and it goes straight into your blood and it's absorbed straight into your blood. So it's very interesting
Right.
to think, like, you know, the two gaps that have to be filled in is how we measure nutrients, how we're notified about the nutrients we're missing, and what way we're going to take the nutrients, whether it's olfactory mechanism or it's tablet, supplement, or whether it's through hydroponic foods. But eventually we will be known as a primitive society when we're still eating food from directly from the ground. That's my angle on it anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mhm.
That's the current today's like farming society. Out of the ground will look like the old hunter-gatherer
Yeah,
civilization or lack of.
and there'll
So,
be a change in the epoch. Like, we're in the epoch of eating from the ground, and then the new epoch, the future, will be where everything's grown in sterile environments.
right. You just reminded me of something. A few years back, when we were involved in some very advanced like e-commerce
Mhm.
development, and we were talking about supply and demand and how eventually all the products that we use, even shoes, let's say, so shoes, the food in your refrigerator, anything that can deplete. So a pair of shoes, you wear them and they start to wear down. Shoes will have
Mhm.
sensors in them, and those sensors will be connected directly to, let's say, Amazon, so that it knows, all right, these shoes have been worn to the point where they need to be replaced very soon. So you automatically, it talks to Amazon and automatically ships you a new pair of shoes. Or if it's your fridge, as soon as your milk is down like to the last like quarter of the container, the fridge knows, and then Amazon or whoever is delivering it will
Or
send you a
the
replacement. So
same with
auto,
it'll be the same with supplements. Your body is low on vitamin C, and it knows you have 6 tablets left, and then it'll order it for you, and it'll come to be delivered.
exactly. So the nutrients, you know those misters that spray bugs in your house or in restaurants, you see them. It's like on a timer, and like every 5 minutes, you'll see the come out of the mister.
Mhm.
It sprays automatically. Your house will have misters inside of it, and then let's say that your magnesium is low. The next shot that comes out of the mister will have magnesium in it.
Yeah, exactly, because your environment will be loaded with all of the nutrients that you need. It's just like, it's interesting because everyone keeps thinking like injections is the future, and more sophisticated like jet released injections, you know, the ones from sci-fi movies that make the sound. And then other people think, oh, it's supplements, and there's different types of coating on supplements to get past the stomach acid. But no one is talking about the breathing in medicine and the fact that it's the fastest delivery mechanism out there. So it'll be interesting to see, like, obviously in the future they'll know the most effective delivery system is breathing it in. So
Yes, and
we have to try
those two
imagine
things together.
the future.
Yeah, so put those two things, the actual minerals, which are going to become like gold.
Mhm.
Now, the whole pharmaceutical industry is going to collapse. It's not going to be here in 50 years. It's gone because doctors do not learn about minerals. They don't learn about minerals in school. They don't even learn about nutrition. If you visit someone in the hospital who just had an operation, and you look at the garbage that they get fed after their operation, it just shows you that medical people don't know about nutrition and the restorative capabilities it has. So in the future, the combination of these minerals, which are going to become the most valuable thing on Earth, and the delivery agent, then you've got something where if you were to invest in a stock or a startup, it'd be somebody who's creating these like these I'm trying to think of the word for it, delivery system or delivery, what
Inhalers,
they were going to do with the inhalers, but there's an
vaporizers.
official word they use for these things. There's an official word they use for these things, like with the vape,
Yeah,
the vaporizer.
yeah.
They called them something. They said we don't want them to become whatever. We'll just say delivery mechanisms for
Mhm.
drugs, but not drugs in the future. No one's going to care about drugs because drugs have failed. So it's going to be delivery for micronutrients, and that's going to come, like you're saying, in the form of some atomizer, nebulizer.
Mhm. Yeah, so Like in the future, like you'll have like your cartridges, and then you pick up your cartridge and you inhale, and then that's your food or your nutrients or your medicine.
Yeah. And if I was going to invest in one mineral today, because it's responsible for like 600 enzyme systems in the body, it's responsible for the majority of operations that happen in the Krebs cycle.
Yeah.
Like they create energy in the cells. So it's number one, the most fundamental mineral that the human body requires. So magnesium is going to become the new gold.
Yeah, well, nutrients will be. See, the thing is that, you know, because we don't live in a uniform world, and there's first world, second world, third world, and then like worlds that are totally primitive. Not all civilizations and cities are going to reach the same level of advancements at the same time, because we don't live in a unified world. So like maybe like the state of Chicago or something like that might reach it first, or Japan might reach it first, or different places, like different trends will come on, and then different cities will so that's something we have to look into as part of Reboot Civilization, is that this idea that the whole world is a unified place, it doesn't look like that. It'll be individual cities, mega cities.
So there'll be cities but no countries. Is that what you mean?
No, as in like, you know, like say this technology comes out and there's inhalers for nutrients. Like it might be in the first world and it might be in the first world cities kind of thing. But as time progresses, first world becomes the second world will become first world as well, and the third world will become second, and then the fourth world will become the third. Like there'll be progression, and eventually will uniform into the first world. So like as technology is rolled out, like not all the world is going to benefit from it at one time. There'll be like certain individual places that get it first. You know, different levels of what, like the world and the cities are going to evolve at different paces, different speeds. So I have this notion as part of Reboot Civilization that time becomes irrelevant. So like the whole world is on 2017 at the moment, but in 2100, maybe the whole world will be 2100. Because like right now, if you go to say Manila or Singapore or anywhere like that, they might be in 2019 technological wise. If you go to Japan, they might be in 2040 technological wise. You know, here in Ireland, we're like 2017, but we're maybe like 2015. You know, that kind of way. So the time zone.
Yeah, so we're going to have a world where the different zones evolve in their own timelines.
Yeah, and like the year. So say like Japan is 2040. Like we all know Japan is probably one of the most futuristic, technologically advanced cities or countries in the world. And even inside that, there is more futuristic cities inside of that. So like this whole generic thing of 2017 is kind of going out of vogue because different cities are evolving at different rates. And so whoever reached 2100 first, that might happen in 50 years.
Well, the most advanced, you're saying Tokyo is? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like based on technology, innovation, and like cultural norms and societal trends and all that kind of thing, Japan seems to be leading. But they also.
Well, you know what I noticed? I read a study the other day that Japan is the lowest in the whole world for obesity.
Yeah, that's because their diet is made of fish and vegetables, big vegetables.
Do they have like non-GMO crops?
No, and they live on preservatives. And this is another thing that I've been working on, is that a preservative slows down the growth of bacteria in your body. And they live on like ramen noodles and like they eat a lot of sushi, fresh fish, raw fresh fish as well. But their diet is really highly has high amounts of preservatives in it. And preservatives slowing down the bacterial rate of production, which indirectly slows down aging and gives good health. So if there was a preservative, like if someone comes up with the idea of a preservative for longevity, that you can have all these pathogens in your body, because you know since birth, like you've been picking up bacteria and pathogens and parasites and stuff, and you take a supplement or you preserve your body, and then that will stop the growth of all those pathogens in your body. So what I was thinking was a diet high in these synthetic preservatives are actually slowing down the aging process.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like say preservatives in bread and noodles in like sauces and like they might have a shelf life of like 10 years or something like that. That's a serious preservative. But
So it's
what
like formaldehyde, which is used as a preservative, but it's also used in funeral homes to preserve people's body parts after they die.
yeah, exactly. So like, you know, one way of extending our lives this time is understanding the use of preservatives and how preservatives can actually pause the effect of pathogens multiplying in our body and so we can live longer. That's another paradigm. We must have a show on preservatives actually and come up and see what research is out there
Right,
about.
but Japan is a good case study. I'm just curious about why they're so thin. And for example, America is number one most obese country in the world, and then Mexico, and then
Their high use of fructose and sucrose. And
they don't do that in Japan.
it's coming in, and since those products have been imported, their weight has gone up a little bit. But they are able to like minimize. Like first of all, the main reason that there's low levels of obesity over there is because there's a cultural stigma over there, and if you are obese, you actually have to go to a doctor, and the doctor maintains your weight from.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually illegal to be obese in Japan. It's a cultural decision that they've made, an executive decision. And then like they have their diet is very rich in raw seafood and vegetables, and then they're eating all these foods, these synthetic foods with a lot of preservatives.
Hmm.
So it's definitely interesting. But getting back
So
to
here, just to give some, I want to give, hold on, I want to give some statistics.
okay.
So this is from 2015, obesity among adults, okay? 38.2% of Americans are obese. And then the middle of the road is 19.5%, which is the average for the European community.
Yeah.
And then Japan is 3.7% of their population are obese. So yeah, 38.2% US, 3.7% Japan.
So we
It's
have
a
to, we
massive difference.
the world has to see that and adopt their understanding of food, because if they're leading, they're leading in so many different sectors, but they're also leading on the obesity level, then we should be adopting Japanese food culture
Hmm.
as a norm. Like the Mediterraneans, they rank high as well, and their diet is a lot of fresh fish, vegetables, um, olive oil, olives, all that kind of thing. Um, but I think the Japanese they're higher than Mediterranean diet, aren't they?
Higher in what?
Like they live longer.
Yes, I believe the longest lifespan in the world is in Okinawa.
Yeah, yeah. So that's good to know. So like, do you know like there's aquaponics as well? Like aquaponics is the growth of fish in tanks. That goes hand in hand with hydroponics. But I do wonder, like I think like in the year 2020 to 2200, will they look back at like the eating of meat and fish as primitive, or as in it was dirty because the parasite content and the pathogens? You know, that kind of like, what way do you like bring yourself into the year 2200 and look back at 2017? What do you think will have changed and how will they perceive us and our eating habits with Japan at the leading edge?
Um, they'll think it's silly or cute that we used to like take these big pieces of food and put them into our mouths and chew on them to break them down and then expel the waste in the bathroom. It'll
Mm-hmm.
just seem really wasteful and really primitive.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is, why would you take this big hunk of food and chew it with your teeth? And then why are you expelling it in the bathroom? Why isn't your body making use of everything? So when you have these biometric monitors, your body's going to be able to know like, okay, this body has enough, so don't take more in, or else it's just going to get expelled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So waste management begins with the consumption,
If
right?
you were to call it something, what would you call it?
Sorry?
If you were to call this project something for life extension that we can open source it and crowdfund it, what would you call it? The delivery, this new delivery mechanism for nutrients.
Balance or something. Call it balance. Because it's about balanced intake and output.
Mm-hmm.
And just look at how much people urinate and defecate.
Yeah.
And look at the infrastructure that's required to support that. Like, what if it wasn't necessary because the body was only getting exactly the amount that it needed, and there's just no need to get rid of waste?
So if this was an open source project, we would have a way of measuring nutrients on a daily or weekly basis. So we'd start off obviously monthly, then at 2.0 would go to weekly, and then
No, not on a daily basis, like on a real-time basis.
Okay, so but to start there, we'd be doing monthly, like because at the moment to get your blood, you'd have to have blood tests every day, and then so if it was live time, you'd have to be having blood tests every couple of hours, kind of thing, and then that's only what's in your body at the time. At the moment, then the stored nutrients is found in your hair. So there's only two ways of finding nutrients in your body. That's through blood tests or hair analysis, and
Mm-hmm.
they said that they found in the articles I was reading that neither of them are most accurate, because if say I have a bar of candy and I eat that, then my blood sugar level is high for the next 4 hours. So if I take a blood test, it's only measuring what's in my body at that moment in time. Whereas if I go with the hair, it's going to tell me from the root to the tip over the period of time the nutrients that are in my hair.
Yeah.
So you'd have to scan the length of the hair, and then you'd also have to be taking the live. Maybe the live blood test would be more accurate, actually.
Well, think about this nanotechnology, right? Why aren't there like nano probes floating in your bloodstream, monitoring, like constantly testing? Why? What's with this, like, ad hoc test?
Okay, so you're saying nano biosensors that.
Constant censoring. I mean, Marshall McLuhan said that in the future, on what people are going to watch on television is like if they're watching a sporting event, say they're watching a football match, and they see people, the athletes running around, they'll be able to look and like click on that athlete and see what his heart rate is, and what the sodium levels are, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going to be more interested in, is like the biometric data.
So this project is associated with nanotechnology,
Yeah.
live biosensors that stream your nutrients to an app, and then your medicine is customized through an inhaler. That's what it
Yeah.
looks like. So
Yeah.
how long?
Even in you'll have an automated delivery mechanism, and like you said, so don't think of an inhaler like the asthmatic people use, where they have to, press on it. This is just something ambient in your environment that goes off
Mhm.
around you, or it could be, it could be hooked up to your a piece of clothing or something, and it's just like it's giving off this mist that goes in front of your face.
No, it'd be like a sniff inhaler. It's like a little tube, and you close one nostril, and you go, and that goes straight up into your brain, into your blood, or
Hmm.
through the mouth. Same thing, but I think up the nose is better because it goes straight into the brain.
Right.
Yeah, it would look like that, and then there would be like aromas misting in your house. Like there would be a vaporizer type of installation in the smart home that's
Hmm.
like knocking out uh, ambient environments that make you feel good and make you feel energized. If you're working or something, you can set up your different chemicals like nootropics could be in the mist system in the house to make you feel a certain way, and then that could be scheduled from like 9 to 5 if we're still working at that time period. And then the evening it could be recreational, so it could be like endorphins and serotonin and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you can choose your mood and say like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time for deep concentrated work, like creative work or something, and it's late at night. And then like you said, it'll give you just the right amount of serotonin and melatonin when it's later in the night, so that you can sleep, you can wind down
Yeah.
into like a lower brainwave state.
So you're saying, so just to keep this back on hydroponics, what we've discovered in this conversation is that we'll be ingesting through our olfactory system, and the eating of food will eventually come to a minimum, where that will be like a rare event kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't be the traditional pill that people think that you'll be taking. It'll be a sniff or mist or vapor. And but up until that point, that becomes the norm. You see, with Reboot Civilization, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the future as fast as possible. So rather than saying like in the year 2050, we have hydroponics, 20% of food production worldwide. So rather than doing that and bringing it up to 30%, 50%, 70, 100% worldwide production of food, we'd say, why don't we just introduce this open source project and crowdfund it for this new delivery system of nutrients and change how we administer nutrients worldwide?
Yes. So
Right.
that's the other thing is, like I said in Blade Runner with the protein farming.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to expand the idea of what's farmed. Right now, when you talk about farming, people think about like fruits and vegetables. That's it. Do you ever think about what's going to be required? Just like when humans created farming in the first place, so they could amplify the production of specific type of foods.
Mm.
Now, there's other things with the production of, for example, like serotonin. If you're going to have these devices that are delivering serotonin, you're going to want to mass produce that. Because I don't know if there's any serotonin mines on the planet, right?
No, serotonin is like, it's a neurotransmitter.
Right. So it's not something that can be mined. It's something that has to be farmed.
Yeah,
So,
you can farm it and then it'll cause a reaction to increase serotonin levels. But like, it's like 5-HTP comes from tryptophan. Tryptophan comes from turkey. So they're mining turkeys to get the tryptophan that it looks, it's produced as 5-HTP. And then you have, that changes into serotonin. So it doesn't come from vegetables, it comes from animal.
yeah. But in the future, it's not going to have to come from animals anymore. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Once the level of the ability to synthesize proteins and fats, once that reaches maturity, then we don't have to rely on livestock anymore, because it would just be too slow. It'd be a nostalgic thing.
So I really like this conversation, and I really like that we have a project out of it. And we don't have to name the project. You said Balance. But basically, it's an open source project, and it's going to be crowdfunded.
Could you say that again? It just cut out.
Sorry, it's going to be called Balance, and it's an open source project. We're going to crowdfund it, and it's basically where you inhale your nutrients first, and then you eat food for pleasure, rather than eating food for nutrients. Hello?
Okay, I hear you now.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the project is, rather than eating food for nutrients, you have balance, which is you inhale your nutrients and then you eat food for pleasure. So you're not eating food for medicine anymore. You're eating food for pleasure because you already have all your nutrients from inhaling.
You're eating food for entertainment. It's a pastime.
Yeah.
It's remember when humans used to put things in their mouths and chew on them?
For food, for nutrients.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to call this Project Balance.
Right.
Okay. So you're happy? I think we summed that up pretty good.
Yeah, but I also have to really emphasize that everyone needs to expand their idea of what will be farmed. There's going to be a lot of new things farmed that you wouldn't even imagine farming right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like the nanotechnology, the bots that are going to go into your bloodstream and monitor your mineral levels and your enzymes and everything,
Yeah, but
and
I
you're
mean,
going to
like,
monitor your neurotransmitters. Those things will have to be farmed.
no, like you have to look at the timeline. You have to look at the timeline. Ingesting is over. Inhaling is the new ingestion. So we have to move nutrients from ingestion to inhalation. So that's like the first step. And we have the technology on this planet at the moment to do that. So that's like step one. Step two then is in the next 20 to 40 years, we're going to be able to build nanobots for lifetime sensor and monitoring. And then
Right.
over the course of the next like 100 years, we'll be moving we'll be moving over to hydroponics to prevent the infection of bacteria.
Right.
That will be the timeline.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have another project for Reboot Civilization. If you're listening and you want to partake in any part of these projects, write comments below. You can email us at rebootcivilization@gmail.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. Chad, thank you. Thanks a million for today. That was really good, really interesting.
Thanks for having me, CJ. Anytime.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye.